Welcome, everyone, to Influential Leadership. I'm John Hadley.
And I'm Dave Miller. And John, since you just finished your wake-up rap, I'll take this one, okay?
Okay, that gives me time for my cappuccino.
There you go. What do you do? What does a leader do when they make a mistake? With a direct report, with their supervisor, with a colleague, with a client, any of those things can happen, right? I mean, we're human, we make mistakes, there are misunderstandings, upsets in relationships. And I was thinking about this, and I thought back to a colleague, a mutual colleague for us, John, Jeff Robinson.
Good old Jeff. He was responsible for our partnership.
That's right. And Jeff, I guess in our younger days, Jeff was kind of a mentor of sorts, although Jeff was very unorthodox in his methods as a consultant. And I won't go into details, but let's just say that Jeff could get away with a lot of things that you and I would never get away with.
I remember that.
But one of the things Jeff told me, because sometimes, Jeff would leave messes with his unorthodox kind of approach to things with people. And he says, look, Dave, it's not how you screw up. It's how you recover that counts.
Absolutely.
And that we threw that back and forth kind of as a joke. Now, remember, it's how you recover that counts. But there really is some truth to it. I don't know if you've experienced this, John. I'm sure you have. But sometimes we'll make a mistake with a client, or there'll be a misunderstanding. And, I think our first reaction is to throw in the towel. We just screwed up. It's done,
Right.
When there's really an opportunity, okay, yeah, there might be a little bit of a deficit in that relationship, but if you respond the right way, you can actually make the relationship stronger than it was before.
Right.
It's a really important lesson. And the key is, I think the reason for that is, I think people by and large are very forgiving as long as you own your stuff.
Yes.
Now the biggest mistake a leader can make, in my opinion, is, kind of this fake it till you make it approach. It's like, well, I'm just going to kind of ease this over. I'm going to pretend it's not there in how I interact with a client, or I'm just not going to make a big deal about it. We'll smooth it over.
Right.
That can sometimes work, but I think very small percentage of the time, I think what I've found is the better way to do it is to go straight at it and own it. And I'll give you just a recent small example that just happened yesterday, as a matter of fact, with me. A couple weeks ago, a client told me, hey, you should be getting a call from someone that I referred to you, which is great when you get those, right? So I had gotten a call on my voicemail. I remember listening to it, and then a few weeks went by. Okay. And the referral source, the client, reached out to me and said, hey, have you heard from this person yet? This potential prospect, or this prospect that's a potential client. And I realized, I said, you know what? I did hear from her, and I had not called her back. And I felt awful. Now, I could have just responded to my client and said, no, not yet. I could have lied. I could have said, yeah, I heard from her, but not gone into it. In fact, I haven't even talked to the referral source yet because I want to have that conversation face to face. But I was more concerned about the prospect. And what I did was I said, okay, I got to talk to her. So I called her. It was early her time, but I said, I don't even want to wait because I felt so awful about it. Because I'm thinking, if I'm in their position, I'd say, who is this guy? What kind of business coaching can he give me?
Right.
A lead. I mean,
he just ignores me.
Yeah. And so I said, hey, this is Dave. And I paused just to see what kind of reaction I get. And there was stone silence. So I that told me, not that I was tempted to take this route, that if I tried to act like nothing was going on, it wouldn't have gone well.
Oh yeah,
That was my sense.
dead meat.
So I said, look, I just want to start out by profusely apologizing for taking so long to get back to you. I really have no excuse. I mean, I was busy, I was sick, but that's not really the issue. The issue was I forgot, fell through the cracks. I'd be happy to set up some time to talk with you if you still want to. If you don't, I totally understand. So that's how I handled it. And she was extremely gracious. We scheduled something, had a great conversation. That's a small example. This stuff happens a lot. I mean, even if it's unintentional. I mean, I had a situation once where I did a webinar and someone on the webinar just misunderstood my intention around something. Felt like there was a bait and switch. I don't remember the details, but I got this really angry email after the webinar. Like, I thought this webinar was going to be about this, and it was this instead. And I didn't really feel like I did anything wrong, but there was a misunderstanding. And this wasn't a client. This was a potential prospect. But I had her address, and I actually sent her a card with some brownies, okay? Like, we have this send out cards thing we use, right?
Right.
And, I said, hey, I'm really sorry that the webinar upset you. This was my intention. I'd love to have a conversation with you if you want. And I got this great email back. She was like, it was totally different tone to it. So, all to say that it's how you recover that counts. There's a lot of truth to it.
Oh, it really is. I had a situation where he was our general counsel. We had a really good working relationship. We were a small company. And I was joking around with someone else who also had a very good relationship with him. We were all, worked together very closely, but, said some things out of school, just joking around about Keith. To my dismay, his legal assistant was on the other side of the file cabinets, overheard it, and went to him very upset. And luckily, the thing that saved me was Keith called me and said how upset he was about it. And I said, Keith, I really appreciate you telling me, okay, block out some time. I'm going to come over and let me explain. And I went over, and I didn't try to say, make light of it or anything. I said, look, we were just joking around, but that's not an excuse. You're right. This was totally inappropriate. It does not represent in any way the way I feel about you. And I really appreciate the fact that you reached out to tell me this. And we had a good conversation. We went on to continue to be good friends to this day. But
Great example.
Yeah, if he hadn't reached out and told me, or if I had tried to minimize it, that would have been the end.
Right. So and this can apply to a technical mistake you make too. I mean, all this, it's all about communication.
Yes.
And, again, the tips here to me are just own it, be direct. Don't pretend it's not there. That's, there's a lot of talk these days about fake news. For a leader, that's fake news. And the other thing is be timely. As soon as you realize the mistake, what you did in this situation, you said, hey, let's deal with this today. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to pretend it's going to go away. And these can be tough conversations. And we gave victory stories. It doesn't always turn out that way, but more times than not, it does. There we go. Couldn't have a video without Roxy showing up. So for homework, and this is kind of ongoing homework for the viewers out there, is really just remember the wise words of Jeff Robinson. It's not how much you screw up, it's how you recover that counts. So remember, you always have a chance to recover if you're willing to stay in the heat and play the game. So with that, everyone, we'll talk to you next week. And until then, oh, did we lose John? Well, be influential.